I was hustling with the one moon bounce and I was like, I got to figure something out. I don't know. And then literally my dad hit me up and was like, hey, this guy I went to high school with owns like 10 of them. And he said he's getting out of them and retiring and he doesn't want to do it anymore. He's like, do you want them? And I was like, yep. Don't even think about it. Let's just do it.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Real Pasadena Podcast. This show is dedicated to sharing the experiences of local business owners and inspiring the next generation of entrepreneurs here in Pasadena, Maryland, and beyond. My guest on this episode is Matt Watkins, the Moon Bounce Guy. Matt is a visionary entrepreneur who embarked on his journey by recognizing the potential in the party rental market. From envisioning a one-stop shop for party needs to navigating the challenges of entrepreneurship, Matt has cultivated a thriving business that continues to grow. In our interview, Matt shares candid insights into the entrepreneurial mindset, navigating fears, and the importance of taking risks to achieve success. This episode is sponsored by Buxton Media Productions, your one-stop shop for video production, podcasting, and editing services. Whether you're looking to produce a promotional video for your business, create more consistency with your social media content, or even start your own podcast, Buxton Media Productions has everything you need to get started. They even have a local studio right here in Pasadena where we're recording this podcast. To learn more, visit them online at buxtonmediaproductions.com. So, Matt, I want to start off by thanking you. I hope I'm returning the favor here because you were the first one to introduce me into the world of podcasting.
Was it really?
I was on your podcast for Titan 100.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. You're
I can't even remember how that played out. I think I blacked out while it happened, but I know there's a podcast recording of you and I out there somewhere in the world. Yeah. So welcome and thank you for being here.
I'm really excited to be a part of this. I am. I'm sorry. I'm going to talk over you. Thank you for having me on. This is definitely returning the favor. I'm excited to post this to the Moon Bounce Facebook page and stuff. I think that'll be fun.
This will be fun. Yeah. So on that note, the Moon Bounces. I want to talk about your journey. Obviously, this podcast is about being a business owner, choosing the path of entrepreneurship, trying to discover why people go down that road, what habits they might have, what decisions they make. What was it that led you to go down and start your own business?
The short answer, I always make the joke that I'm unemployable, and it's like half a joke, but it's also half the truth.
Yeah.
Not unemployable in terms of like not willing to work or like won't show up on time or whatever, but it's like one of those things where when I have an idea, I don't even ask. If an idea sweeps me up and I like it, and I just run. You know what I mean? Like It's just my personality. I just go after it. And so I had a few jobs before I was an entrepreneur, before I was like self-employed. I had a few jobs, and it was always that friction of like, I tell people, and I have to be careful saying this now that I'm the business owner because like I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth, but I tell people like my personality is I don't care if you're a PhD or if you're on the janitorial staff, like a good idea is a good idea and a dumb idea is a dumb idea. And that creates friction in like corporate settings and stuff. You do have to sort of respect hierarchies a little more. Mm-hmm. And I have always struggled with that. I'm just an ideas guy. I like to have an idea, run after it, and see what we can build. It's like we used to use in Titan 100, we used to use the expression like jump off a cliff and build a plane on the way down. Like that's very much my personality. So yeah, those two things, like just being, I don't even look at it as risk taking. I just enjoy building things. And it's like, I just enjoy getting out there and trying to build new systems and processes. Before the Moon Bounces, I had a couple entrepreneurial efforts that some of them I did okay and paid my bills for a few years. Some of them were a little flat and never got off the ground. You hear that statistic that like, it's like 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 businesses fail in their first 3. I'm like, yeah, I started 3 or 4.
What did those look like? I think if I'm recalling, you were
you were selling golf balls on the golf course, right? Was that the first entrepreneurial?
No, that's going way back. I was keeping the story more to my 6 year. I've been like the moon bounce business is about 3 years old. I've been a full-fledged entrepreneur, like off of a W-2, making my own, my wife had a job and stuff that did support our family for a little while, especially in the early stages. I don't want to like discredit that.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
But like I got off the W-2 and started hustling my own way and trying to build something by myself about 6 years ago.
Okay.
I come from an entrepreneurial family. So like my dad owns a business. Mm-hmm. And then like you say, yes, as early as it was, I want to say 10 or 11 years old, me and my brother started a used golf ball business where we would go on the golf course that was by our house and dig out golf ball. I don't, how in depth do we want to be with all?
Oh, I mean, it's just it's interesting.
Yeah.
The lemonade stand, right?
Yeah,
in your case,
I love
it was
that
golf
story.
balls.
Like if I were to ever be at a business seminar, it would definitely be a story I told, just because it is like a near and dear. I just wasn't sure how like deep.
Yeah, well, I want to understand too. Like, is it ingrained in us? How can somebody identify?
I will tell you this. I can answer that. Is it ingrained in us? I don't know. But I was like 11 years old. Me and my brother. This is a real core memory. Like, you ever seen that movie Inside Out?
Oh, yeah.
It's like a real core memory that shaped my personality. So we used to take these golf balls. At nighttime, we would run out to the golf course that was by our house, get as many golf balls as we could, and then the next day sell them back to golfers in like egg cartons and stuff for $12 a dozen or whatever, different prices. The Titleist Pro V ones were always like, they were $2 a ball. Like, and there was one time, I literally will never forget this. I was like 11 years old, and I was walking home with like $700 in my pocket in cash. And we had worked, it was the night before, and then selling golf balls. We were probably out on the course for 6-7 hours that day selling them.
Wow.
But I mean, you're 11 years old and like mom and dad didn't give you that money. I had to split it with my little brother I was 11, so he would have been like 7. You know what I mean? But and I'll never forget walking home that day, and I was like, I didn't say this then, but looking back, like I was ruined. You know what I mean? Like I didn't stand a chance of going and getting a job for somebody else. It was one of those things like, no, even when I was 16, knowing that I just had that in me. It was like I had that experience, and it shaped so much of when I was in high school. I was never thinking about like going and getting a job. It was like almost like, how can I replicate the golf ball idea in real life? Do you know what I mean? Like in it. So
we're going back to like nature versus nurture. I find it interesting that your dad was a business owner. My parents were not. I referenced Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that was one of the first books I read through my own self-discovery of this path. But I wasn't 30. I was like 30 at that point. And I just, up until that point, I didn't understand some of the feelings that I had, and why I pushed back against what I was told is the correct way to go about, preparing for the future. So it's extremely interesting to me to hear that, and to start to connect the dots as I talk to more and more business owners and entrepreneurs. So, fast forward, the moon bounce guy. Where did that come from? Was that the next golf ball idea?
No, so like I said, in the last 6 years, I've been self-employed, and I've had a few ideas. I think total, including the moon bounces, I want to say I've had 4 entrepreneurial startups that I've tried. I would consider 2 of them successful, one of them an outright failure, and the other one was just a flat. The moon bounce was one of those successes, and it came from the very first thing I did was copywriting. Like, I noticed a thing when I was working for my family business, my dad's business. We were well connected with a lot of like tradespeople, and one thing I noticed, I'm a good writer, and I noticed that tradespeople, just no offense to them, but it's just not a skill set that they hold. And so like I actually, for the first 2 years of my entrepreneurial journey, I made a decent, not a ton of money, but decent $40,000-$50,000 a year just doing like freelance writing for tradespeople anytime, whether it was literally everything from an email campaign for them to a Facebook post that some of them didn't like their own grammar, and so they would ask. People had me on retainer for $200 a month just to proofread their Facebook posts and stuff. You know what I mean? So I did well with that, but I got burned out on it quick. And then it was a lot of it was one of those things. I loved writing, and then once I started doing it for money, I swiftly started to hate it, and I didn't like that. I'd always loved writing, even in high school and stuff. Writing was something I really enjoyed, and then to go from loving it to hating it, so I kind of put that down and was like, all right, love the entrepreneur thing, but I got to figure out something else, right? And so then I tried like a sales training type of thing. I was always real good at sales in the home improvement business. My dad's electrical business. I was real good at the sales end of it, the customer service end of it. So I did hustle for a little while as like a sales consultant, like helping tradespeople. Again, they were always my demographic, helping tradespeople improve their sales pitch, because again, that was something that they needed help with. That one was the one that I think was just a little flat. It never really went anywhere. It never was. It stayed afloat, but only that. And then that kind of morphed itself into Titan 100. I don't mean to over-explain.
No, you're fine.
Titan 100 really struggled through COVID, and really was ever since COVID happened, because it was a weekly gathering in human, and just ever since COVID hit, it just was on life support, and that was the one that I kind of consider, I don't even want to say a failure. You were a part of it, but it just never got off the ground to where I wanted it to be.
It's something, I've been talking about too. It's the lesson you learn, right? You don't fail, you learn, and it's led to us sitting here today.
Sure. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I think that I shouldn't even say I consider it a failure. It was just one of those things where it was like I tried so much harder with that one than I did with the other ventures, and that one never. I feel like if I would have put the same effort into the sales consultant that I did to Titan 100, the sales consultant would have blown up. Do you know what I mean? Like I was good at it. I had a rhythm. I felt like I was always just treading water with Titan 100. It was like the member turnover was always like, I was
tricky.
Real excited to sign 2 new members, only to watch 2 of my oldest members leave that same month. I'm like, so there was that type of thing. So anyway, we were literally sitting around after COVID. I couldn't get the Titan 100 was just all but flatlined. And I literally, was sitting around a campfire and had a memory of I had a moon bounce when I was at my 9th birthday, I think. My parents got me a moon bounce. And we were sitting around a campfire, and one of my wife's friend's husband is a guy who he does, what's he do? Windows. I think he installs windows.
Okay.
But he does a ton of side work. You ever met these guys that he does like decks and patios and siding and everything else. He's like, And so I watched him make crazy money on his side job. I'm like, what do you even got a real job for? You make so then literally I was like, I'm saying all this to say, I am sorry, James. I don't mean to over explain. The moon bounces literally came from I was treading water for a year after COVID, and just was kind of like, what if I got a moon bounce? We were sitting around a campfire with that group of people, and I'm like talking to him about his side cash, and I'm like, I got to figure out something like that. I'm dead right now. And then I was just like, how hard could a moon bounce be? I mean, you drop it off Saturday morning, you pick it up Sunday afternoon. You collect $300. And back then, because I was I was just turning my wheels in the mud. It was COVID. Everybody was struggling. I was literally back then. I'm like, if I got one moon bounce and did it $300 a weekend, that'd be $1,200 extra dollars. That would cover our, BG&E and gas bill for the month or whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's what it was when I first started. And so I got the first unit. Literally my wife's cousin owned a unit that she bought for her kids, and her kids outgrew it, and it just sat in their shed unused for years. And so I messaged them on Facebook, and I was like, hey, let me take that thing. I think I told them, I was like, I can't pay you for it because I'm broke right now. I'll give you $10 every time I rent it out. I don't think I ever actually paid them.
Really? I was going to say that.
It's like we have that related, like their family. It was, you know what I mean? I make the joke every time I see them. I'm like, I think I still owe you $100 or whatever. But I got that from them. And then before I even actually picked it up from them, I just went on Facebook Marketplace and posted it on Facebook Marketplace and said, hey, if anybody wants to rent this, they sent me a picture of it. Mm-hmm. The picture was like years old because it hadn't been inflated in who knows how long. But I posted it, and literally within, I think it was like 45 minutes, I had like 10 locked in rentals. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. And so that was, I was like, oh,
ding.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I got something here.
I remember, I don't remember the timing of it exactly, but with Titan, so Titan was business networking group that we were both part of, and we would run this hot seat, and one member would sit in the hot seat and say, I've got this thing, this that I'm dealing with, or this, I'm trying to make a decision. And I remember, and if I'm jumping ahead, but you're like, this guy's selling a bunch of moon bounces.
So that was, I say, the next
and
part
I think
of the
I'm going
story.
to buy them. And I'm like, where the hell is this coming from?
Yeah, so I was hustling with the one moon bounce and I was like, I got to figure something out. I don't know. And then literally my dad hit me up and was like, hey, this guy I went to high school with owns like 10 of them. And he said he's getting out of them and retiring and he doesn't want to do it anymore. Do you want them? And I was like, yep. Don't even think about it. Let's just do it. And so I did. I got on I talked him into somehow. He's a very nice man. I talked him into owner financing it for me because I couldn't afford 10 I couldn't hardly afford one at once. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't afford 10 all at once. So I was like, look, same thing with him. I did actually pay him though because he wasn't family or nothing. But I was like, I'll give you X amount per month until they're paid off, and then if I can get them paid off faster, I will as they rent out. And ever since then, it was, I think a few months after that, there was another business in Delaware that I got hooked up with that was going out of business, and I bought their whole inventory, and it just snowballed, man. And then ever since then, one thing about doing this too is like they find you. You know what I mean?
Who finds you?
Moon bounces. Units find you. It's everybody knows you as the moon bounce guy. So anytime somebody's getting rid of one or has one that hasn't been used in a long time, they're always, what the heck do we do with this thing? I'm tagged in so many Facebook posts that we're getting
guilty.
rid of one.
Matt, have you seen this? 100 times.
So yeah, it's just grown and grown. And then last year, I don't know if we share figures on here. I don't know.
I mean, you don't have to get into specifics, but yeah. I do want to talk about when you were first getting started. What were some of the challenges that you initially faced? You mentioned, money. Obviously, you had to get creative.
Yeah, so getting creative with some of the financing options, that's one thing that I preach to budding entrepreneurs is like, look, that one beautiful thing about America still, say what you want, and like I got my own share of political grief and stuff, but like there is a lot of freedom to just, if you can find somebody to agree to it, like, and as long as you both agree and you both are clear and you have a contract and understanding, like you can work some magic. You know what I mean? You got to be a little charismatic and you have to. Creative financing was real. And I'm using that term liberally. Like I was convincing family members and this gentleman who owned a business to spot me. You know what I mean? Like, but beyond that, I will tell you just the learning curve of, I came from the home improvement industry. I was an electrician for like 6-8 years, something like that. And then was in bath remodel for 3, you know what I mean? It was, to shift from that, there was a little bit of overlap with like, I was a dispatch manager. It's at one point I worked my way up in the electrician to be a dispatch manager. And so like I understood the idea of building routes that made sense for drivers to get to all their stops in a day, but still just the learning curve of hitting a whole new industry and not having any idea, and just learning as you go.
How did you learn? I mean, it obviously it's not super complicated, but you have to, set it up, break it down, clean it,
so like I will tell you,
insurance.
I'm still learning. Yeah, I'm still learning in so many ways. Like I'm 3 years in, and I just now, before I came here for this interview, I was working on my new website, which like I'm just now getting a site that has options for different checkout times. You know what I mean? Like before it was, so I'm still learning.
Well, that's important because coming from the world of website design and development, I can't tell you how many times people put that cart in front of the horse and say, well, I've got to build this website, right? And if I build it, they will come. But really, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So year 3, building a website that, finally has the functionality, I think that's right in line where you should be.
And so I would say most of the challenge though came from hitting a brand new industry as the owner. Do you know what I mean? A big learning curve was trying to be able to work with the counties and the state, like for their events. That's always like, because it's depending on what county office you talk to, they want different documentation, whether it's some county offices make you submit an inspection form for your units. Like if they're going to rent it from you, you have to show them that it's been inspected. And other ones barely ask you for your insurance.
There are moon bounce inspectors.
There are, yeah. Yeah. It's funny.
Can you get certified?
You talk about learning, like you just learn as you go. I was doing events, just backyard events. Yeah. That's still, even today, is 98% of my business is the backyard party. That's my bread and butter. But like I'd get a phone call here and there say, hey, we want to do, Lake Waterford Park or whatever. And then so just learning the hoops you have to jump through to be able to set up on public grounds and stuff, like it's a totally different, I don't want to say totally different beast, but it's just, it introduces, it just introduces like, and you learn, so that's what I was saying about I was doing backyard parties and nothing but, because I didn't know how to get into the parks. One of them told me I needed insurance, so I went out and bought first, I think 3 months, I didn't have no insurance policy. I probably shouldn't say that. But like I had my insurance policy in place and was still trying to get into these parks and couldn't, and it was always a different hoop you had to jump through. So just learning that type of thing. And I was doing the backyard parties and I got a phone call out of the blue, and it was, hey, this is, I don't remember what his name was, but so-and-so with Anne Arundel County. Do you do Anne Arundel County Parks and Rec, or do you just do backyard parties? And I was like, right now I just do backyard parties. And he said, I'm so-and-so, my name is whatever. I'm the inspector for Anne Arundel County for the units. So if you ever want to do Anne Arundel County, you just have to have the unit inspected and blah, there's like a form and all that. So yeah, it was, like I said, half of it finds you just as you go. I looked a little bit into doing the parks, but I didn't actually start doing them until I got a phone call from the inspector who reached out to me, and you know what I mean? So
yeah. So I want to talk about, help. Obviously this guy unintentionally reached out and maybe help push you towards discovering these other opportunities. But I know we've talked about finding help, especially as you scaled, right? As you went from one unit to, I don't know how many units you have now, hiring employees, running routes. What does that process look like for you?
Like specifically learning that process, or
who's helped you? And
there's one thing, I'm sure every industry has this, although I've not seen it for some of the other industries I've been in. I use social media a lot, and I actually feel like I've been pretty well connected into the industry without ever actually having met some of these people. Like, I've just been really, I don't know, there's a ton of information out there. For one thing about my industry, there's a lot of guys that do it as a side hustle. There's a lot of guys that's how I started, right? Before it was a full-time gig. It's a lot of guys that do it as a side hustle. And so because of that, there's a lot of guys that want to raise the industry standard, because when you have an industry where there's a lot of side hustlers, like there's a lot of junk too. You know what I mean? And so I think because of that, there's a lot of content out there for my industry that is, first of all, my industry doesn't have any kind of like certification or licensure. Like there's no such thing. When you were an electrician, you can be a journeyman or a master electrician. When I did chimney work for a little while, you can be certified in chimney repairs. Moon bounces, you stake the thing in the ground and drive away. And, you know what I mean? It's so being that there's no like proper certification or anything, it's mostly been social media. But it's just been guys all over the country. There's a guy, I'll tag him when I post this. We're Facebook friends. His name is Nick Glassett. He's actually like he's got a big business down in Louisiana, but then he also, like, you can go onto his website and he has a whole section dedicated just for party rental business owners how to run your business. Here's how to do this, how to do that. So just consuming things from some of those like industry giants that were bigger than me when I was starting out, still are bigger than me. That's been where most of my education's from. I had a business degree, if that counts for anything. So yeah, I'd say that's where most of my stuff has come from. Is a lot of manufacturers. I will say that a lot of manufacturers put out a lot of educational content just because they want you to know how to sell their units and what to be able to tell customers and stuff. And then there's a lot of guys in the industry that are trying to raise the industry standard because there's so much junk with the side hustlers.
What's up, Pasadena? I'm James Bowerman, your Pasadena Realtor and host of the Real Pasadena Podcast. As a lifelong resident, I've experienced firsthand what makes our town such an amazing place to live, work, and play. As a local real estate agent, having the opportunity to serve so many wonderful people in our community is truly a great honor. If you're thinking about making a move, let me show you how my knowledge and experience can help you achieve your real estate goals. To learn more or to schedule a private consultation, please visit realcreativegroup.com.
At what point did it shift from a side hustle to like, I'm going to build a business?
That's
around
a really hard question. That's probably the hardest question I think you could ask in terms of building the Moonbounce business. There wasn't really a moment. It's not fair that I was already an entrepreneur of 5 years and wasn't on like a W-2 or any kind of, you know what I mean? So like, you know how being an entrepreneur is, man. It's like you have 3 or 4 hustles that are all, and they ebb and flow. Do you know what I mean? It was the moon bounces just started flowing and it never really ebbed. You know what I mean? Like
you were always going to keep building.
Yeah, it was. So it was like there was a little bit of time. I hit it like an entrepreneur. Like that's one thing I will say is like when I made the decision that I was doing it, my whole social media presence became about moon bounces. You know what I mean? So it was. That's a hard question. It definitely started like primarily paying my bills in like I think towards the end of 2021 so 2021, the end of 2021 was kind of where I started saying, okay, I see that this really isn't even just like gonna pay my BG&E bill, but like I could really build a business off of this. And so
I remember you started advertising, right?
Yeah, 2021. The end of 2021 was when I said that. So I think in 2022 was when I really started saying like, all right, I want to run some Google leads. I want to like get this off of Facebook and onto a website, which now I'm rebuilding 2 years later. But yeah, so that's, I think, how I'd answer that question. Not really a hard start time or date. It was one of my entrepreneurial hustles that just outgrew the other ones rapidly, but still in a phase.
I think once it starts paying your bills, it's something you shift your focus to and say like, let me continue to water this and see how big it can grow.
I will say there was a time where it wasn't quite paying my bills yet, but I knew the rate that it was growing. I knew it was only a matter of time before this became like that it was going to, because there was a time where Titan 100 was my whole baby and my whole focus. And like pretty early on, I knew, I was like, this is probably going to eclipse Titan, which I thought and still do think if I ever put a pulse back into Titan or if we ever decide to do something with that again, I've got idea. The hot seat would make a great podcast, dude. I love
the hot seat. It's a great exercise.
I love the hot seat too. I don't know why I had I'm a good salesperson too. That I had so much trouble selling that to people.
Well, that leads me to my other thought here is like your passion, your purpose. Like, what is it about the Moonbounce business? Because you went from a different industry. You know, not to say that you love being a tradesperson.
No.
Was it sales? But now your Moonbounce is you're physically out and about. Like, what is it that really drives your passion and purpose?
One thing I struggle with when I go to those entrepreneurial meetings where they're all talking about they all talk about like they want to get out of the truck or they want to delegate and do something. Like, dude, I love flipping moon bounces. I don't know what it is. I really do. Like, I get a rush out of it. So a couple things help. And this isn't as deep an answer as you might be fishing for here, but it's just the truth. Like, I go to the gym every day. Not every day, but I'm an active guy. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where I don't want to be active. If I don't, I just bounce. Do you know what I mean? So I think just having a physical active job just suits my personality. I like going to the gym and lifting heavy things. And so when I'm out on a moon bounce run, it feels like I'm getting paid to go work out, which is an awesome feeling. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That's really cool. So restate the question for me. I was
just what it is that drives your passion for moon bounces and
a deeper answer too. And you can cut this out if you want. I'm a spiritual guy. And so this was one thing when I was talking about treading water with Titan for so long, this was one thing when the moon bounces really started to blow up from underneath of me and
no pun intended.
Really, when they really started to get bigger and started to, it was one of those things where I felt like, man, I've been grinding Titan 100 for so long. And then there was a spiritual side of me that just said, clearly God is moving this moon bounce thing. And that makes it easy to shift your focus onto when you believe that something bigger at work is driving this thing along, where it was just me and my own will and effort doing Titan 100, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I am saying once you see something bigger that I tell people, it's like, when I was doing Titan 100, it felt like I was I was the lead dog in a dog sled. Do you know what I mean? The moon bounce very quickly felt like you were just at the helm of a ship that was just, you throw the wheel this way and the whole thing turns that way. And it was a unique feeling. And it felt bigger than me. It didn't feel like I was pushing it or pulling it. It felt like I was just at the helm and was blessed to be at the helm of it and able to steer it in different directions and stuff. And so I'm hoping to continue doing that wisely. That's I've wrestled with core values. I think if I ever actually get them established, I do know that wisdom will be one of them. I've gone through periods of entrepreneurship where I did have core values established, and wisdom always works its way into there. And that is because I do believe it's something bigger than me is pushing it. And so I just want to be wise to lead it well because it is bigger than me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. We've talked about, I think we've argued over that word specifically in the past, but I'm big on core values. Yeah. I really feel confident in the ones that I've defined for myself, not necessarily for business, but more so for my life, because it helps guide the decision making. So when there's an option available, it's like, should I do this or not do it? And when you reflect back to your core values, it makes it very easy to answer the question.
And that's what I think I was getting at. Over the course of my entrepreneurial journey, have had my core values have just moved and shifted, which to me says they're not really core values. I was trying to find core values and kind of testing different things out and stuff. But the one that has always stuck, no matter what, is wisdom. And so I think when you ask purpose and what gets you out of bed to flip moon bounces and stuff, I want to lead it wisely. I think that a lot goes into that. I love the team that I have. My guys are awesome. That's one thing. When we were doing Titan 100 and the moon bounces were flourishing, we used to have every other hot seat that we had was about people. I can't find help. I can't find labor. And I'd sit there and think I can't relate. So, you know what I mean? I love my team and I'm oversaturated with guys that want to work. I send out a route of deliveries and they argue over who gets to take it. Do you know what I mean? So that makes me be okay, if these guys are arguing over who wants to work and then they look at me as the leader, I need to be in that conversation. I'm going to take a route. I want to run, even if it's just one or two per, if I take one route per month or whatever, just to let them see me being the leader and keeping my hands dirty and the boots on the ground and stuff. I think that goes a long way. And sometimes I think that where other business owners I just seem to say other leaders are trying to be a leader by establishing a leadership role and I'm the leader. I call the shots. I do whatever. I think a lot of times if you are out there, like you're
leading by example.
Think about like the terminology, right? You are out there. You're out front. You're in the field, out in front of everybody, leading it. Like that does more. What does more for somebody? One of your employees. What's going to do more for them? Just a guy behind a desk saying, you need to roll these things tighter. Because that's one thing in the movement. Like I hate when the guys bring back sloppy rolls. It makes the garage messier. It makes them, driving the trucks is harder because the wind catches them and stuff. So like I could sit behind a desk and holler at them to roll these damn things tighter. Or I can go out there and I do, and it's like, I guarantee you, none of you are bringing back a moon mounts tighter than I am tonight. And guess what? Everything comes back super tight. Do you know what I mean? Like I think that is the difference between, and that motivates, that's another thing that I think motivates me to get out there and like.
There's a great image out there that I think of the leader being at the front,
yeah.
helping to pull the block versus the boss who's whipping the people in front to get them to motivate it. But
it's like every time when I used to struggle with that. So there was a sense when I was in the electrical field and I was a manager, I was semi-qualified but semi-unqualified, and I kind of earned it, but my dad kind of gave me the job. It was a little of both, and I really struggled in that position because I was trying to like be a leader to guys who knew more about electric than me, but I getting out there and getting in front of my guys and almost making it a challenge of like, I guarantee you I can upsell more X, Y, and Z than you, or I can
it's challenging is a great motivational
and it creates
tool,
a good
right?
like company atmosphere too. It's not like, it's not like I have to, or like Matt's going to be upset if we don't hit X, Y, and Z KPIs. But it is like the competition, the competitive atmosphere brings like a team spirit to it almost. You know what I mean? So.
Well, one important thing I want to hit on is just this scale, and the question I'm going to ask is going to be, what does the future look like for the moon bounce guy? But knowing that there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to building a business, as far as being just a single guy who puts up moon bounces versus being, the Jeff Bezos who, has a fleet and he doesn't do anything. I personally find like somewhere in the middle is more my comfort zone. I don't think I want to just manage people, right? I think understanding yourself and what your skill set is and what you enjoy. If you love being out there flipping the moon bounces, then by all means you should be out there flipping these things around. Because I think if you move yourself out of that role and all of a sudden you're sitting behind the desk, you're going to hate your life, right? So what is the future of the moon bounce guy look like for you?
I think somewhere, so I have seen other businesses in this area, the Baltimore area is what I'm going to call like where we are, prove that you can run a $2 to $3 million business in my industry in this area. I would love to see. The short-term goal is I want to do what I did last year better. Does that make sense? Like I want to do same amount of rentals, same dollar figure and all that better. Scaling it and long-term.
What do you mean better?
So both more profitably. Like we had, I don't want to say a lot of waste, just a lot of growing pains last year. Last year was a big growth year for us.
More efficiency.
So more efficiency.
Like
yeah, like I was talking about the new website. I'm super excited for stuff like that. Just being able to have everything from like if I do the same number of rentals at a slightly higher dollar figure, like that'll be a win. If I do it slightly more profitably, that'll be a win. I'd even like to just do the same dollar amount but amass more units, you know what I mean? Like that are paid off and debt free, like that would be a win. But I say all that to say, like right now I'm very much in the growth question is hard for me because 2023 was a monster growth year. Like I wasn't ready for it. And I've almost kind of told my guys, like, I'm not saying I want to pump the brakes, but like, I don't want to be doing $500,000 a year and have no systems and processes in place and have no, you know what I mean? Like I need to good thing. I do see $1 million or $2 million vision for the Baltimore market. I would love to get into tables, tents, chairs, dunk tanks, stuff like that. Maybe even like DJs, catering. Like I do have a vision for like the all-in-one party stop, all-in-one. What do you call it? One-stop shop. That's what I'm trying to say. The one-stop shop for like a party rental. I think that would be awesome. I would like to. It's a good question, James.
I know it's going to be a tricky one for you because I've talked about like long-term visions before, and I know it's not. It's tricky for a lot of people to be able to say, well, what's going to happen in 10 years? I don't know. That's a long time. Right. Like, but just trying to see what the way that your brain operates, because knowing you want to stay more involved within the day-to-day, of the moon bounces and not fully remove yourself, like you said in the beginning, like not having the intentions to just like be the operator.
It's interesting, man. Like I don't know, when I talk about like not removing myself day to day, it's almost like maybe I'm wrong and I'm naive. Sometimes I think you can do both. In I'm not trying to say like, I know that probably sounds naive. It's like I was talking about, sometimes being the leader is being the guy out in front of the pack that shows up to the warehouse with the tightest roll and do you know what I mean? Like, so I'll put it to you this way. It's like you said, in 10 years, I don't know what's going to happen. I will tell you, I have a couple visions that I think could be actually realized in 10 years. And like one of them is a franchise model where like if, $100,000 buy-in, you get X, Y, and Z inflatables and a couple pickup trucks and systems and processes manual, and we'll handle the marketing. A franchise model, but I would still see in that franchise model, like I would be the franchise leader. That was like, it was my franchise was the model for all the other franchises to look to. So like, it's like a leadership through boots on the ground type of thing. And maybe that will prevent me from getting to Bezos level, probably will, but I think I can build a really fun life, a comfortable life, and something good to hand off to my kids, to hand off to their kids, that has a few nice properties and a few boats or a jet ski or two. You know what I mean? Like that's all I want. And so that's what I see for it. $1 million, $2 million business if we're really killing it and have some great years. That my sons can, without a college education or anything, just move right in if they want. Move right into the family business and start flipping moon bounces themselves.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Let's go to advice that you would give yourself, or maybe if not yourself, since I know this is only you've had many experiences, so I don't want to isolate it to just the moon bounces. And hey, if you went back 4 years and told yourself, but for somebody who's listening or watching, who's thinking about starting down this entrepreneurial path, what advice would you give them?
It's so cheesy. It really is cheesy, but dude, it's so true. It's so true. There's so many people that I know that have ideas for businesses, especially when I was doing that Matt knows a guy thing. I was constantly, everybody knew me as the entrepreneur guy and the guy, it was like I was constantly, people are so scared, dude. They're so scared. And it's like, just do it. Even if you fail, it's like you said earlier, even if you fail, it's not a failure.
It's a lesson.
Life's long, dude, and I'm not trying to discredit like things staying with you for a few years, or like credit's taking a hit and stuff, but like I'd rather have low credit for a few years and have taken a risk than to be 80 years old and just have nothing but have been a cog. And you know what I mean? So, and I'll tell you, it's something like I preach to myself. I desperately need a pickup truck right now. I need a second pickup truck so bad it's not even funny. If you looked at my U-Haul account, because I rent U-Hauls on a regular basis to get these things delivered, you'd be like, you're an idiot. Why, you know what I mean? Like, why are you spending this much in U-Hauls, not just going out and buying a truck? I'm scared. Dude, do you know what I mean? Like the thought of having a truck payment in the off season when I'm scared. So it's almost like you have to take your own advice, but it literally, and that's the thing, every time you just buck up and do it, even if it doesn't work out how you wanted, you're fine.
I've often found when I let fear be my compass that it really guides me to the place that I need to be. So I wholeheartedly agree with.
Or say that again. Fear's your compass.
Fear is my compass. So like if you want to know where you need to go, follow head in the direction of what scares you the most.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I see what you're saying. I thought yes, we're saying the same thing.
We're leaning
ways.
into fear.
Right. You're saying run through the fear. I'm saying yeah. It's like you have to
eat the frog. What's the thing you want to do the least?
Yeah.
That's the thing you need to do the most, right? That's the most important thing.
Or it's like if something's, I can't even wrap my head around the fact that I'm scared to go buy a pickup truck. I really don't. I mean, I'm being vulnerable in saying that. Like I know these guys that have 5, 6, 10, 20 pickup trucks in their business. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'm talking about $1 million vision and I'm scared to run out and go buy a second pickup truck. That's madness. You know what I mean? But it is, dude. It's just scary, man. Like but
well, hopefully you'll get some encouragement from the audience.
My advice is every time I push through it and go do the thing that I was like putting off because of the fear, I'm always like, I can't believe I didn't do that sooner, dude. My life is so much easier for having done that. Or the things that didn't work out. And I'm telling, where's the camera? I'm in this camera. Listen to me. What's the statistic? 90% of businesses fail in 3 to 5 years. I've started 4 businesses and 3 of them are not in business anymore. Like I'm telling you, like you just keep your head down and keep going. Like entrepreneur it's a personality trait more than it's a title. You know what I mean? Like I can't not be one.
I don't think you can fake it.
Yeah. And so but that doesn't mean you don't feel the scary, like the fear. But that's your personality, if you're an entrepreneurial personality, like just compartmentalize it or cope with it, do whatever you got to do, but you have to eventually you do have to just trounce over it and run through it. Yeah. So that's definitely, I sound like my dad talking about don't be afraid, but it really is. It's held me back so much, man. If I wouldn't listen to that fear voice, that was what confused me, is when you said let fear be your compass. I'm like, no, I don't want to listen to fear, but I see, you know what I mean? I see what you're saying. Like if I didn't listen to that fear voice, I think I probably already would be doing $500,000 a year. You know what I mean? Like that's what the vision is for 3 to 5 years from now. And I really, really believe that if I had no fear, I could hit it next year. You know what I mean? But it's just so.
Great advice. Any books?
The Bible.
Okay.
Am I allowed to say?
You can say the Bible or podcasts. I just want to. What has helped to educate? I find that's another trait with entrepreneurs: constantly seeking wisdom, constantly learning, self-improving. What resources would you recommend?
I spend a lot of time in prayer, and like I know that's not probably an answer that you're looking for, or I know you're not I don't mean that you're shopping for an answer, but I have just found the older the text, there's a reason that it stood for as long as it has. It might not have an answer for every modern problem, I don't know, but just there's a lot in there, and just certain places that I would point an entrepreneur just to would be to read through the book of Proverbs is really good in the Bible, and then the book of Ecclesiastes is really good. They have a lot to say about designing a life and doing it well and doing it wisely. And so that's where I pull a lot of. I'm honestly like a business owner that isn't real concerned with the bottom line. That's not to say I don't want to make money and that I'm not, I can truthfully say I'm not in it for money. I'm in it. I love being an entrepreneur. I love if it was a moneyless, stateless society, I'd be okay as long as I still got to do my entrepreneurial thing. I don't need to be, it's not money that,
money isn't the motivation.
Right. Yeah. It's,
I think it goes back to how we started the conversation of you get to make your own decisions, right? You don't have someone telling you, oh, that's a dumb idea. You can't do that. So it might be a dumb idea, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. And I'm going to live with the consequences. Yeah.
I spend a lot of time in the spiritual stuff. Like I don't read a lot of business books that are about profits and loss and marketing and whatever. I read a lot of spiritual stuff. I would say if I have to give one business book, there's a book that I think every business owner should read called The Bowerman Letters. That's a good one. The Bowerman Letters. Boron.
I have not heard of it.
It's there's a famous copywriter named Gary Halpert. You ever heard of him?
I have not.
He was in prison for tax fraud. But he was like a world-class copywriter, and he was a multi-millionaire off of his copywriting skills. And these letters that he wrote to his son, who also became a multi-millionaire copywriter. And he has a lot to say. It's a copywriting book, so it's like about writing, but it's not, there's more in there than just the writing. You get a lot about like how people behave and what types of things they respond to. And that has how I think I did a marketing. The Bourne Letters is only about that thick. And I did 2 years of marketing for my business degree, and I got more out of that book than I did out of that whole marketing class.
All right.
So that would be my business answer. The Bourne Letters, Gary Halpert. I think it's actually by his son. It's like, because the way it's literally just a collection of letters that his dad wrote to him while he was in prison.
Interesting. Good recommendations.
It's a good one.
Solid answer. All right. Well, we got to wrap it up, but I want to give you a chance. Where can people find you? How can they connect with you?
www.themoonbounceguy.com. A lot of people forget the moonbounceguy.com. Yes, www. That's why I put the www. And then also on Facebook, if you just search the Moonbounce Guy, I usually come up pretty high towards the top, but it's all linked on the website as well. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Matt. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you in the future.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Real Pasadena Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Real Pasadena is your local online source where we cover the real news and highlight the real people impacting our community. Be sure to check us out at realpasadenamd.com, where you'll also find all the show notes and additional episodes of the podcast. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, be well, my friends.